the translation of which, this opening chapter of the Holy Quran, is in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, not those who earn your wrath or thy wrath, or no those who go astray.
Next, as we move on with our program, we would like to receive a welcome from Dr. Roscoe Reddix, who's assistant to the Chancellor here at Southern University. Dr. Roscoe Reddix, please.
Assalamu alaikum. It's always an honor to share the stage with the man W.D. Mohammed and to welcome all of our guests to Southern University at New Orleans. We have a theme at SUNO this year, designing a blueprint for the 21st century. This program and the Imam's visit is a very important component of this plan. Again, I'd like to say welcome to Southern, and if the Chancellor's office can be of any assistance to you while you're here, we're certainly making ourselves available. Welcome to SUNO. Thank you.
Again, we would like to thank Dr. Reddix for that warm welcome, but of course, it's like being welcome at home every day. We're right here at home, and we want you to know that we feel and we accept the fact that we are home. We're not visitors, we are home. We would like to present to you at this time an individual who's very, very instrumental and worked real hard to bring this event about. Brother who happens to be a student here at Southern University and who's working as president of the Student Muslim Association, Mr. Ahmed Ferguson.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu Muhammadan Rasulullah. I'm glad that everyone here has showed up. Alhamdulillah. It's taken a lot of work to put this together, but alhamdulillah, we're all here. First, I'd like to say all praise is due to Allah for bringing us all together here this day. I'd like to say alhamdulillah for Chancellor Dr. Jex for being able to bless us to have this event today. I'd like to say alhamdulillah for the Lyceum Committee for inviting the Imam W.D. Mohammed to speak today, and the SGA as well. Also, I'd like to thank Imam W.D. Mohammed and his ministries for graciously accepting our invitation to come here to speak today. And also another hard worker here on campus, a faculty member, Dr. Abu Harger, who's worked very hard to put this event together as well. I also like to thank the Muslim communities around the New Orleans metro area, Masjid Rahim, Masjid of Al-Islam of New Orleans, Magnolia, the Lau Ibn Robin Center, brothers over at UNO at Masjid Al-Ghuraba, Slidell Masjid, my home masjid as well. I'd like to thank you for all the support that you've given to the Muslim Student Association and to this event. And as well, I'd like to thank my fellow classmates for coming out as well to this event. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. And believe you me, he really worked hard, and he's starting to relax a little bit now, you know. So he's a very hard-working brother, and we need more young minds and individuals who have a desire to work to project the proper image of the religion of Al-Islam. Next, we would have to like to hear from another friend who I think we've been working with him, I guess when we were both much younger, here at Southern University, to give us some insight in terms of sharing our cultural heritage. That is the Lyceum perspective, Mr. Gilbert Dawsey, who's Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. To the Honorable W. Dean Mohammed, Dr. Reddix, other platform guests, Mr. Wale Oruf, students, visitors, and friends. This is truly a historical occasion. It is programs such as this that provides us the encouragement that we will need from time to time. It is programs such as this that gives us the knowledge that we all need to cope with the problems that we are facing as black men and black women in this ever-changing educational scene. I am sure we will be inspired by the message that this great man will bring to us today. I speak on behalf of the SUNO Lyceum Committee. The purpose of the Lyceum Committee is to bring to students programs of this nature from a cultural perspective that will enhance their educational experiences within the arts and the humanities. I want to thank the Imam for taking his time today to come and speak to us and to share the wisdom that he has with us. I also want to thank and to congratulate the students of the Muslim Student Association and to echo what Mr. Oruf has said about Ahmad Ferguson. He has again worked tirelessly to make sure that this program happened. I think we should give him a hand. Thank you. Finally, I want to thank you all for coming. Thanks for your care and concern about our young people's future. I hope that when you leave today, you will be glad that you have come. Thank you very much.
Certainly appreciate that, Mr. Dawsey. Before we introduce the speaker, there's one other person we have to introduce. And the only reason why the person's name is not on the program is because that individual put the program together themselves and they're so modest they didn't want to be part of the program. But we have to hear from our Sister Malik Abu Haga. Sister Malik, please come forward at this time.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. I bear witness that there is no God but one God, and that Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Peace be upon you. It is always a pleasure to receive the Brother Warisuddin Muhammad. It is always an honor to be in his company and yours. We are very, very grateful to have been given the opportunity to participate and plan and provide and share with you some of those experiences. Southern is always open and we're always happy to be of service. We become enriched, we become stronger, and we become knowledgeable. At troublous times, as we have these days worldwide, we need the understanding that is based on knowledge and information so we can communicate better. We can talk differences, we discuss differences rather than kill each other worldwide. So hopefully we will gain the knowledge needed that we spread around so peace becomes in every home, here and abroad. Shukran. Salam alaikum.
Very good. No, Dr. Malik Abu Haga has been very, very instrumental in keeping sure that the Islamic students here at Southern University achieve academically because she's also their academic advisors. Warisuddin Muhammad the son of Elijah Muhammad, and known to many as Wardeen Muhammad, is the Imam Muslim religious leader in the Society of Muslim Americans and Muslim American Spokesmen for Human Salvation. His service for the promotion of universal human excellence is well documented, as he has established direct and genuine dialogue between leaders of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. His clear and appreciable representation of the religion of Islam and unparalleled contributions toward building respect for Islamic life in America has merited him countless awards and many unprecedented acknowledgments, some in the last few years. The only American invited to formally observe the historical and critical 10th Annual Islamic Conference of Ministers of Foreign Affairs in Fez, Morocco. In 1988, he represented Muslims at the World Parliament of Religions Leaders meeting for survival of the earth and its environment in Oxford, England. Later that year, he was invited to participate in the symbolic signing of the First Amendment Charter of Religious Freedom in Williamsburg, Virginia, where with a host of other American religious and social leaders, including 2 former U.S. presidents, he was a signer representing the Muslim in America. In 1990, following the invasion of Kuwait, he was invited and led a delegation of Muslim leaders, scholars, and educators to Saudi Arabia, where he addressed the Islamic Conference on Persian Gulf conflicts as a leader of Muslim in America. On February 5, 1992, he was invited and delivered an historical address at the Pentagon on the fundamentals of Islamic faith to military chaplains and other personnel in the interest of increased opportunities for Muslim chaplains in the American military. The very next day, February 6, he became the first Muslim representative to deliver an invocation on the floor of the United States Senate. The following month, in the state of Georgia, the state of his father's birth, he delivered a standing ovation of elected officials, the first address of a Muslim leader on the floor of the Georgia State Legislature. On September 10, 1992, he was cited for exemplary work in the religion of Islam by Egypt's President Hosni Mubarak with their country's highest and most distinguished religious honor, the Gold Medal of Recognition. As part of the inauguration activities for President Bill Clinton on January 20, 1993 in Washington, D.C., he was invited to participate as a representative for the religion of Islam in the inaugural interfaith prayer service. Imam W.D. Muhammad is an avowed supporter of Palestinian causes, the Afghan Mujahideen, Muslim against apartheid, the people of Kashmir, the Kuwait refugees, the Muslim of Bosnia, the cause of the suffering people of Somalia, and all of the world's oppressed. He is a member of the board of directors of the Council for the Parliament of the World's Religion and a member of the World Supreme Council of Mosques. Among the many publications he has authored are Prayer in Al-Islam, Focus on Al-Islam, Unity and Leadership. Imam Muhammad hosts a weekly television program, W.D. Muhammad and Guests, on station WJYS, Channel 62 in Chicago. Brothers and sisters, at this time, I would like to present to you the best among us, our leader and friend, Imam Wahid Muhammad.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Praise be to Allah. Thank you. Allahu Akbar. Praise be to God. That is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihi al-Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ba'd. We acknowledge the one God, creator of the heavens and the earth, Lord, sustainer of the universe. And we acknowledge also that Muhammad, to whom the Quran was revealed about 1400 a few years ago in the peninsula now called Arabia, is the last prophet and the messenger and servant and messenger of that God, the only God, the God for all of us. I would like to first express our appreciation for our office for this invitation. We appreciate the invitation, and I think this is the third time that I've had the honor of addressing you on this campus of Southern University at New Orleans. And I hope that this won't be the last. I must have been doing something right before, so I hope I do something right this time again. I wanted to speak on Islam in America. And I hope that it would be within the theme that you have, Islam, global culture, perceiving or understanding Islam as a global culture, the global culture of Islam. I'm sure that all of you who understand Islam, have some knowledge of Islam, you know that there's a difference between Islam as religion and Islam as culture. And I would like to begin with the image of Islam in the world, past, present, and we hope future. Islam began in Arabia with the prophet of Islam, Mohammed, prayers and peace be on him. And Islam, within really about 11 years or so, became the new leader for the world of that time. I say within 11 years or so because the first 10 years or more, Islam was just quietly being revealed to the prophet, and the prophet was quietly introducing it to his companions and to those who would listen. And it was only after the prophet began to institute the religion openly in Medina, with an opportunity he was given there in Medina, the nearby city to his birthplace city, Mecca. It was only then that Islam began to be known publicly, and within, as I said, a relatively very short period of time, about 11 years, Islam was the leader of that time. The prophet was inviting the great nations to Islam, their leaders, to accept Islam, and Islam was beginning to open the way for a revival of the sciences, revival of education and a revival of the sciences. Because of that movement, we may say, or that great mission of our prophet, the West was excited and ignited by that light, that knowledge that was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, in the Quran. And they later themselves began to do independent research, to study the lost knowledge, to reinterpret, to take a fresh look at their own religion, their scriptures. We know of Martin Luther, who brought about a great revolution in Christianity, and with that revolution we have the Renaissance that changed the West, freed the subjects of dictators that were then ruling over them, freed their minds, their intellect for independent research. And today we take pride in being citizens of America, of a democracy, and enjoying human equality. But all of this couldn't have happened, in my opinion, without the Quran being revealed to Muhammad of Arabia, prayers and peace be on him, and bringing about a situation in the world for the leaders and nations of that time to have new curiosities and go back and study their own knowledge, their own religion, and to see if they could find a way that they had lost. They had lost the way. We have to admit that Christianity had lost the way, and civilization had lost the way, and it was Islam that first came and showed the way. This is what history tells us, and this is what should be admitted. However, in time, we know the West benefited greatly, especially Spain, for 600, 500, some say 600, 700 years. Spain was under the influence of Islam, and Spain was a kind of a model for the West, especially for Jews. They often mention, the Jews will even now mention Spain, how Spain, the Muslim rule in Spain, gave them the opportunity to progress intellectually without feeling any fear from the Islamic government that they would be persecuted or denied their freedom. This was a good time for Christians, a good time for Jews, a good time for the West, and we have to say it was a good and a bad time for Muslims, because we know that moral deterioration set in, and a lot of the rulers of that great span, 500 years or more, were victims of corruption. And though they kept to a human idea of what society, government and society should be, they did not stay strong in their religion. We had good and bad leaders in that period of time. And I believe that accounts for the fall of that, or the demise of that great Spain we call Muslim Spain. Its influence still can be seen today in the cultural life of Spain. And we have to recall it as a great time for peace between Muslims, Jews, Christians, and others. I was really touched by the story of Muslim Spain. The author of the publication that I read said that it was reported when the Muslim government was overthrown and the Muslim rulers were pulling out of Spain, non-Muslim citizens of Spain could be seen crying, shedding tears. They were weeping because the Muslim government had been removed. But we know that behind that time, or with that time, came the period of confrontation for Islam and Christianity. Islam, the image of Islam, suffered under the Crusades, and I would add that the image of Christianity too suffered under the Crusades, because the Crusades, the war between the quote cross and crescent, does not give us a picture of Islam, and it does not give us a picture of Christianity. It gives us a picture of people fighting each other in the name of religion, but really motivated by worldly conquest, seeking dominance. And our holy book, God tells us that he will not give dominance. Always there will be some particular nation or some particular people or some particular select group of people at the top, ruling, dominating. But we shouldn't seek that, and God says he will not give that to any who seek it. If you seek that, he will deny you that. Colonialism came more recently in our history, in the history of the world, and colonialism also changed the image of Islam. We as African Americans or blacks, we know of our, I hope we do, we know of our history in America. We know that we lost our image and many of us now have given up wanting to regain that image. We know also that we lost the history of our people in Africa, but we are not aware that Islam too lost this image. Islam has been persecuted in the world just as black people were once persecuted in the world. And just as Islam was misrepresented, and something had to happen in somewhere in the world to bring about the correct image or picture of Islam, the African American people, our image, how we perceive ourselves, how the world perceives us, how the world sees us, was something that we could not live with. And it was only because someone took both these burdens upon themselves and tried to, in his own way, bring about freedom for the image of Islam, freedom for the truth of Islam, and freedom for the real life of black people, only because this person took up those two burdensome responsibilities, is that Islam began to be propagated in America. There was no effort to propagate Islam in America before the Nation of Islam was conceived, called the Lost Found Nation of Islam. There was no effort to propagate Islam in America before Farad, a man called W.D. Farad and W.F. Mohammed, W. Farad Mohammed. This man that's called Farad, spelled in the encyclopedia F-A-R-D, but pronounced F-A-R-A-D. He came into the ghetto of Detroit, where African Americans in the early 30s were the worst off. He came to the worst part of the city for blacks, and he began to invite them to Islam and also invite them to a knowledge of self. He believed that they were lost, and he called them the Lost Found Nation of Islam. Here is a man conceiving a nation of Islam. There were already existing an international nation of Islam, but that international nation of Islam had suffered crusades, had suffered colonial domination, had suffered the loss, or at least the misrepresentation of its identity in the world, or its image was lost. And Farad was introducing now his new conceived nation, and he called it the Lost Found Nation of Islam, as a kind of sacrificial model, a model that he was giving as a sacrifice. When I say as a sacrifice, it was not true Islam, so he made a model to sacrifice with the intention that true Islam will one day come, with the intention that the persons that he was using in this sacrifice would get his hints, would find his hints, would find the hints in his teachings, the hints in his work, the hints in his work, and those hints would guide them to freedom, to freedom. Now, at this point, I would like to say that Farad was not the only one guilty of that. I have read many Bibles, if we could call them all Bibles, since my curiosity began, and that was a long time ago, back in late 50s and the early 60s. That's when my curiosity started. And since then, I've read many Bibles. And I was surprised to find in the Gospel, the Bible, the Christian Bible in the Gospel, Jesus doing something that seems mighty strange to get sight to come into the eyes. And the Bible says that he mixed saliva with dirt, and he put the dirt and saliva mix, a mud kind of thing, on the eyes of the person that had lost the sight, and that brought back the sight. Well, I also remember reading in the Old Testament that after Abraham had dug wells so that people could have the clean, fresh, healthy water from the depths of the earth, it says that Jacob put dirt in the wells, Well, it seems that Farad was not the only one who did things like that. Why? So Farad, knowing that African American people, blacks in America in the 30s, were lost. They were lost from themselves. They did not know themselves. They had to discover themselves again. He knew that the self that they had was not their own self, was not their own self. And he says that in his lesson. He says, and who is your own self? He answers the question. He gives it in a kind of catechism. He answered it himself. He said, your own self is a righteous Muslim. That was the answer he gave for black people. Now, wasn't that strange that while others were trying to get back to Africa and find the original self of black people, of the lost blacks in America, in Africa, Farad, this kind of mystic, he said, your own self, your original self, is a righteous Muslim. And when I come to understand Islam, the language of Islam in the Quran, I have to agree with him. The own self of everybody, the true self, the original self of every human being is the righteous Muslim, is the Muslim. Our Prophet said that every child born is born a Muslim. And it is the circumstances that the child is put in that make him otherwise. This is what our Prophet taught us. Prayers and the peace be on him. So Farad was not saying anything strange to Islam, but the way he was presenting everything was very strange to Islam. So I'm not trying to clear this particular teacher who came to down and out blacks, African Americans, in the early 30s, because he can't be cleared. He did wrong. To introduce Islam in a package that is not Islam is wrong. That is wrong. So he did do wrong. To make claims, outrageous claims, to say that he was the Son of Man, and that no help came to blacks until the coming of the Son of Man in the person of W.F. Mohammed or W.D. Farad. This is wrong, because help did come to us before Farad came. Help came to us in Frederick Douglass. Help came to us in Booker T. Washington. Help came to us in E.B. Du Bois. Help came to us in Sojourner Truth. Help came to us in Mary McLeod Bethune, and many, many, many others. So help did come to us, and Farad himself borrowed from some of those that had brought help to us. He borrowed from Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington had a school, and in part of his school curriculum was to teach drill, military drill, to the students. He believed that that would help African Americans come back into a sense of discipline, appreciation for disciplined life. And Farad borrowed from him and introduced military drill into the classes of the Fruit of Islam. And I can go on to show you even that he borrowed the idea of calling us to a nation, because it was Marcus Garvey who had, prior to Farad, it was Marcus Garvey, an African American victim of America's enslavement of our people, etc. He called us to a nation, an idea of nation, to accept and embrace an idea of nation, and to identify with Africa, and to see ourselves as a nation of millions of people existing in Africa and in the West, in America, in the Caribbean, everywhere. So he called us to that idea before Farad did. But Farad put it together in a real special kind of package. He gave divine sanction to everything he was saying. Nobody before him did this. Nobody gave divine sanction to everything he was saying. Farad gave divine sanction to everything he was saying. He said that God was bringing all of this about, and that God had decided that all this should happen, and that he himself was the manifestation of God, and that he came to select one of the downtrodden, one of the lost sheep, and raise him up to lead the rest of the sheep. So he chose Elijah Muhammad, who was formerly named Elijah Poole, born in Sandersville, Georgia. My father, he selected him to be his mouthpiece. And my father used to tell us a lot about how he was selected. And he said, you know, Samson used the jawbone of a donkey in his war against the Philistines, you know. And he was seeing himself as a donkey, and Farad picking him up and using him. He actually said, I had no knowledge, I was ignorant. I only had 3 years elementary school education from Georgia. I didn't know what the world was. I didn't know anything about Islam until Farad taught me. So he acknowledged that he was a kind of a donkey that Farad found, and used him to fight the fight the great battle, to make the great battle with Western power, with white power, with white supremacy, because at that time there was still white supremacy. So I'm trying to carry a lot of things together. That is Islam, and compare or show a kind of a parallel for the fate of Islam in the world and the fate of African Americans in the world, and to show how a peculiar method was used to attract us to ourselves, to our real self, and also attract us to true Islam. I think when Farad said, your own self is a righteous Muslim, he was saying by way of quietness. See, that was a quiet way of saying. He could have come out openly and taught it, but he didn't come out openly and teach it. And to teach it, he said it very quietly. And who is your own self in this kind of Muslim catechism that he gave, or Farad's catechism that he gave? He answers, he said, your own self is a righteous Muslim. And he said that we had lost ourselves, meaning that the self that was in us was not ourselves. And others had said that too, that slavery and integration into the white man's, I'm not talking about the integration popular that was brought on by the civil rights movement. I'm talking about that process of integration that was going on before the civil rights movement, where blacks thought if they were to be educated, they were to imitate educated whites. If they were to speak correctly, they had to speak just like educated whites. If they were to have the right expressions when they talked, they had to imitate the expressions of the educated whites, etc. That's what I'm talking about, you know, that integration. So when that period of integration was, to many of us, like Booker T. Washington and others, a false representation of ourselves. We were not ourselves. We were imitating those who had enslaved us and those who had given us a measure of freedom, but not true freedom at that time. Farad questioned that self in us, that identity in us, and advised us to become independent-minded. The proof that he wanted us to be independent-minded, and I will go so far as to say he wanted us to one day become independent of his teachings, independent of his influence. If he didn't want that, he wouldn't have enticed us in a very kind of seductive way to be attracted to the Quran, but at the same time hold us back from going to the Quran. You know, that's like a woman doing a striptease and a burlesque. You know, she's making you want it, but saying no, don't touch. You know, stay back. I'm not saying that he was that vulgar, but he did do a striptease. He did a striptease with himself, and he did a striptease with Islam. He was enticing us and making it look very seductive, taking it out of its beautiful, dignified form and making it very seductive and saying, come to it, but don't get the Quran. Don't get the Quran. Stay back. It's not time. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us there will come a time when we will know the Quran. He said, but first, some of us had to learn the Arabic, because he said the truth of the Quran was not in the English translation, but was in the Arabic. So he encouraged his young members of the Nation of Islam, Lost Foundation of Islam, to study Arabic. He himself secured professors. One of them who, in fact, the one who did the most good for us, because his ability in English was very good too, was Dr. Jamil Diab. He was from Quds, Jerusalem, and he had lived a good time in America, so he was well acquainted with the life of the American people and also with our plight, our circumstances in America. He became our teacher. He didn't try to change the Honorable Elijah Muhammad message, He didn't attack it. He just stayed clear of it, and he did his job of teaching. His job was to teach us Arabic, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad learned that he was also good in general science and he was good in math. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had him teaching us several courses. He handled several courses for us, especially for the older children, the high school, the junior high school boys and girls. And as a result of that, I, along with a number of other students, began to study, read, and understand some Arabic. We began to study verses of Quran, and we were given portions of Quran along with the Arabic class, as part of the Arabic class by Jamil Diab. So when we began to read the Quran in Arabic, my father, the then leader of the Nation of Islam, who had passed away, and we pray God forgive him his sins and grant him paradise, because he was innocent. He did not know what he was doing. He was only following his teacher. He wanted us to learn the Arabic, and he began to be curious after we began to show that we had some knowledge of the Arabic. And one day he asked myself and my brother Akbar, who's very good in Arabic. In fact, he teaches in upstate New York, Binghamton University up there, and professors of Arabic have told me that his Arabic is just like theirs. You can't tell the difference between his Arabic and their Arabic, and they are native born Arabs. Akbar, my brother's name is Akbar. So Akbar and I, we looked at my father when he asked us. He said, are you reading the Quran some in Arabic? With Arabic, can you understand some of it? So we said, yes, Daddy, we can understand some of it. He said, well, what is it? What is it saying? And I told him. Akbar looked like he was wondering what to say. And I told him, because I had a strong religious curiosity. Akbar had a strong academic motivation. So that's not to criticize Akbar now. So I told my father, I said, Daddy, I said, it's the same. He was disappointed. He thought that the Arabic would bring a knowledge that would give support to what he was teaching. But it was the same. And the Arabic was even purer and clearer as a judgment against what he was teaching that was un-Islamic. So he had introduced his children to a language that was going to bring them to the Quran and take them away from Farad. So I believe that Farad intended that. He intended that. He intended that one day we become independent-minded, independent thinkers, and begin to suspect even what he taught us and reject everything that does not stand up in the light of the Quran. And thank God that happened. And my father said when Farad was conceiving his idea for bringing a change of freedom to us, say he was like gambling. He threw the lot. He said, oops, I missed that time. Well, he might have missed that time. But thanks to Allah, when we got the Quran, there was no miss after that. Now, I would like to say a word to the members of the, I would say, Nation of Islam that was taken off the shelf, you know. Because when I came into the leadership, I shelved it. I put it on the shelf, you know. I put it away. But Farrakhan came, Minister Farrakhan came, and he took it back off, he took it off the shelf. And he thought he was knocking the dust off of it, but he took it through more dust. It got more dusty. And he now leads the Nation of Islam. We have hopes that he's going to continue to influence his following to study Arabic and to study Quran and to study the life of Muslims, the international Muslim nation or Ummah, and to one day hope to be at one with the international ummah. I hope that that will happen. I do see signs that Minister Farrakhan is allowing that to happen, and sometimes I see him even encouraging that. And as long as I can see that, then there's hope that the same road that we traveled from that saliva and dirt on our eyes to the Quran will be the road that they will travel, and one day they will have the Quran, and they will rejoice over the Quran more than they rejoice over anything else. This is what I believe is going to happen. In fact, it's happening slowly. We appreciate, I'm digressing a bit, but I appreciate also, we appreciate Minister Farrakhan disassociating himself from the statement, from the ugly, slanderous statements against religious people and against the Pope and against, you know, we are not to, God says to us in the Quran, don't even revile or slander or talk ugly of the God of other people, even though their God may not be the right God, because we invite them to have the same behavior taught us if we do that, you see. So in this case, it is not a people that worship idols. Christians worship God. We don't agree with everything they say and do. We don't agree with their concept or their perception completely. And we don't agree with everything the Jews believe in, and we don't agree with their perception completely, but we respect the essence and the good intent and all the religious people. And we do know that one God revealed all Scripture. One God revealed all Scriptures. So Farrakhan, he won more respect from me to himself and support for us having patience and waiting for him to bring his people into the full light of Islam. When he came out and disassociated himself from the statement made by his assistant, Dr. Khalid. I hear that he didn't only disassociate himself from the statement, but he also disciplined Dr. Khalid. And this is very good. This is encouraging. Getting back now to the history of Islam in America. Now, what I've said to you, you perhaps say, you haven't told us about the history of Islam in America. You've told us about how your situation as people who wanted Islam was made so complicated by Farad, and that the Quran was the open door and the light to guide you to real Islam. You haven't told us about Islam in America. I have, because as I said, before Farad, there was no preaching of Islam in America. There was no preaching of Islam in America. The Ahmadis, they did a little preaching, but never were they visible like the Nation of Islam or the Lost Foundation of Islam under Farad. Moorish Science Temple attempted to, like Farad, to introduce something to attract us to Islam, but what they introduced to us was not Islam, and they did not have the visibility, never had it, that the followers of Elijah Muhammad gained. So in my opinion, when you want to study and find out how Islam became known in America and how Islam has become now a religion practiced by many Americans, you have to study the Nation of Islam, or the Lost Foundation of Islam, conceived by W. Farad Muhammad, or W.D. Farad, he went by different names, and established by Elijah Muhammad, that worldly naive man from Georgia, black from Georgia, who only had 3 years elementary education. He established the houses of worship, called temples in those days, and also, and by the way, before he passed, he took the name mosque off of the houses of worship. The name mosque was put on the houses of worship in the middle 50s, perhaps even as early as 53 or 54, I think, upon the suggestion of that professor I mentioned to you earlier, Professor Jamil Diab. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the last years of his life, he began to call them temples again, and that was the name he left, not mosques, temples, because he knew that we had not come from the temple of Farad to the mosque of Islam. That's why he did it, to tell us in his death that we had not come from the temple of Farad to the mosque of Islam yet, but that had to come. The temple, the mosque of Islam today would not be, had it not been for this mystifying man, who perhaps was a mystic, a religious mystic, doing what he did to advance the human life from human misery and degradation of the blacks, and to advance Islam from an incorrect image in the world to a true image in America. Now for a little figures, so some facts on Islam, or the attempt by Farad to introduce Islam and to save blacks. When he concluded his works in late 1933 or early 34, he published that they had attracted 25,000 blacks to their membership. I know a lot of us think he only had a small following. That's not true. He had a big following back then. 25,000 was attracted to the membership of the Lost Foundation of Islam under the teachings of Farad. He had already set up the 2 units for the men and women, one called the Fruit of Islam, giving cultural training to the men and disciplining the men, and the other unit for the women was called MGT. And by the way, he also got this from America, from us. The blacks, we had the Long Star, that was the women, wasn't it? Organization, I think. The Eastern Star, pardon me, and the Eastern Star was the women unit, and then there was the counterpart was the males, for the males. So he separated his organization too and gave classes and club-like situation for the men and for the women, called the men FOI and the women MGT and GCC, Muslim Girls Training and General Civilization Class. Now, I'm going to do something, make a friendly gesture that might be misinterpreted to the brothers of the Fruit of Islam that are following Farrakhan and a few others, not as popular as he. You know, it's time for you to look at where we are today. And I never did like, I'm sharing this with you, brothers of the Fruit, I never did like having our women called girls. The white man used to call our women girls and used to call us boys. And I said, where's the women class? If this is nothing but the girls class, where's the women class? And if we are marrying grown-up women who are only girls, that make us boys. So I didn't like that. Now, to make, as they say, a long story short, in my opinion, Farad's thinking was this: blacks can never come away from the white influence, the white world's influence, until something be done to shatter and destroy their thinking that they have presently. So he devised something that he knew if blacks bought it, it would completely shatter the thinking that they had bought from the white world or that they had accepted from the white world. So now the next thing for Farad was this: to do it in such a way that it sensitized them to think universal. Now he perhaps was the most narrowest author in terms of introducing universal truth that I have ever come upon. But he was also a big exaggerator. He exaggerated and made claims for his narrow view, that his narrow view was really universal. He said, this is the universal truth. So that made me, and you always speak of yourself better than you can speak of somebody else, but don't think I'm saying me alone. I'm just one of many that was influenced this way and began to move in this direction in the same direction, or the direction that I moved in. That made me then want to be universal in my mind and in my thinking, and I want my perception to be universal. I think that was part of the strategy, part of the scheme, to make us come out of something very narrow. The use of extremes. If you want a person to really want freedom, confine them. And the more you confine them, the more they're going to want to feel freedom. If you confine them in a prison like they have now, like these inmates enjoy now, they may not want too much freedom. But if you confine them in a prison like they used to have long generations ago, man, when they come out, they're going to want freedom. I mean human freedom. Human freedom. So I think Farad, he had something very narrow and limiting, very constricting and constraining, but it was to give us an urge for something big, for release, you see. And he claimed for his own narrow view, universal view. So that makes us, the students now, they think they're universal. We should say, what school you go to? I'm in the 5th grade elementary school. Say, what school do you go to? I said, man, I go to the University of Islam. That's what our elementary school was called, the University of Islam. The leaders of the black revolution, evolution, for our minds, for our intellect, they also called their institutions colleges and universities before they even had qualified college and university professors. They had to have them, you see. So again, I think Farad might have took a hint. He said, well, if they did it, I can do it. And I can do it better. And he did do it better. He did his thing better. Yes. So we began to think universal, and I began to see that Islam, the real Islam, is the religion that introduces adherence to the universe. God says of the paradise that we're going to inherit or gain upon our goodness, be rewarded for our good because of our goodness. He says of that paradise to cultivate, he said that its expanse is as the expanse of the skies and the earth.